Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at vanta.com.
The fear of missing out can tend to lean in and take over and drive your decision to spread yourself so thin. Through almost 3 decades of running an international flower business, I have learned that saying hell yes is a commitment. And if I said that so many times to all of the opportunities, then I would just be drained.
Welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom, where we share pearls of wisdom shared by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, leaders, and difference makers. Here's your host, Govind Jayaraman.
Hi, my name is Govind Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom, episode 327. Thanks for coming back. Sometimes the most powerful ideas don't arrive with noise or certainty. They show up quietly, as a feeling that you can't quite explain. It's a sense of alignment, maybe, or resistance, a knowing that doesn't need permission. And as you're listening right now, you might already be thinking about a decision in your own life or leadership, something that you've been circling, something that you've been tolerating, something that might be asking for clarity. Today's episode invites that kind of conversation, that kind of clarity. My guest today is Liza Roeser, founder of 50 Flowers, a leader who has built something meaningful, enduring, and values-driven in the real world. Our conversation captures her wisdom, and it reads, if it's not a hell yes, it's an easy no. And as you sit with that idea, you might notice how your mind begins sorting through commitments and opportunities and conversations, not forcing answers, but allowing awareness. This episode isn't about impulsive decisions, it's about honest ones. The kind that respects your energy, your capacity, and the season that you're actually in. So as you listen, you might find yourself letting go of something that no longer fits, or finally giving yourself permission to choose what really and truly does. So let's dive into my conversation with Liza Roeser. Liza Roeser, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. I'm excited to have you here.
Govind, I'm excited to be here with you.
So you shared a great napkin with me, but before that, you shared your name with me. And as the CEO and founder of 50 Flowers,
Yes.
Roeser is a beyond ironic name. You were born to be in this business, right?
You know, I didn't know it, but I sure am. Marked by, thank you, great-grandfather. Thank you for my name.
Right? It's fantastic. All right. So let's get into your napkin, which is absolutely beautiful. You've got beautiful penmanship too, which is fantastic. It's a beautiful napkin, and it says, if it's not a hell yes, it's an easy no. Why did you share that with me?
You know, I shared it because I want entrepreneurs, especially women, to understand that it's in the middle, you know, where the energy, our culture, and the confidence dies. You know, saying no, it's a leadership skill. We all have so many incredible opportunities. I like to call those opportunities shiny stars, squirrels that we chase. And, you know, the fear of missing out can tend to lean in and take over and drive your decision to spread yourself so thin. However, you know, through almost 3 decades of running an international flower business, I have learned that saying hell yes is a commitment. And if I said that so many times to all of the opportunities, then I would just be drained and confused, I think is a good word. Confused.
Drained and confused. It's a whole new movie, Drained and Confused.
Yes.
It's like a sad entrepreneur song. So you on your opening, you just dropped a lot.
Yeah, I did.
So you said Well, I want to go here first. You said in the middle things, and you listed a bunch of things die. Things die in the middle. And, a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, I have to compromise, Lisa. What are you talking about? What do you mean in the middle things die? That doesn't sound right. That sounds how I'm surviving. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. Let's dig into that first.
Yeah, let's do. I used to be that person that would say, "What do you mean I can't do it all?" That's where that's where you go from big to bigger. But reality is, and I kind of want to kick myself in the rear end for not listening to myself, is the saying less is more. There's some truth to that. When you learn about setting boundaries and protecting your time, that's when you realize that you can spend your time doing a whole bunch of something. And I can't tell you the countless amount of projects that we have started and we haven't finished. We have funny inside jokes in the office. We call it, the Bullets Project that we've been working on for 9 years, because we started, we get really dedicated to it. And then guess what? A squirrel comes along and we start working on something else. So it really is about understanding what is it you're trying to get done. Less is more. Setting boundaries around it. Aligning as a team and as an individual. Holding integrity around it. And just staying focused.
I think there's a lot of power there. Maybe let's back up a little bit so that our listeners can hear your story. So you got in the hyper competitive space of flower business. It's name joking aside, you chose this business. It didn't choose you, or maybe a little bit of both, but you're in this business.
Yes.
That is hyper competitive, which you have grown into a $100 million global floral platform, which is
we're not $100 million just yet.
Okay.
We're getting
So you're on your way. You're on your way to $100 million global floral platform. But the point being that you're global. You went from this idea and have gone global in flowers, which is about as fungible as my front yard, right? There are flowers everywhere. So how did you find your way here? How did you find your way in the start? And let's tell that story first. How did you get started here?
Sure. I love telling my story, because most people would look and be like, "Oh yeah, she's, got her MBA, she's trained." No, I'm a little girl from Texas that had a big dream. I graduated Texas A&M and went into Peace Corps and found myself in Ecuador working with small businesses, helping with, marketing. The 4 P's of marketing was my seminar that I taught, amongst saving the guinea pig populations and importing alpacas and cows to better the animal population in Ecuador. And I really fell in love with the country, and I just felt a calling of there's something more to do. And I literally fell into flowers. I almost said it in Spanish because I am bilingual. And, I started working with an export, the side of it. I ran an accounting department and got really bored fast, and then went to the flower farm. And that's where I fell in love. Seeing all those beautiful blooms and just understanding the operations behind it and the perishability behind it and the novice behind it. Because, 30 years ago, no one really understood import-export of flowers. We were all growing. There was a lot more domestic growers stateside. And I saw an opportunity to jump in and put in a business-to-business company. That's my first company, Farm Exports, and we sell event planners around the world. And I was able to sell into Kuwait, Russia, Italy. First, shipment of flowers from South America to the island of Guam, we organized. So I learned a lot about the industry while building Farm Exports. And during that time, I realized that there were all of these beautiful blooms in all of the fields, and the traditional way of, the chain of distribution, it was, it was standardized, and people didn't want to think outside of the box. And then I learned about something in like 1999. It was called the internet. And I came up with the idea of let's sell directly to the consumer. And in 2000, I launched the very first website. It was 50 roses at first. We switched over to 50 flowers because there's just too many flowers to be limited by roses.
Or your name.
What was that?
Or your name, Roeser.
Or my name.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And, it just, from there, it just as though doors opened, and I did not allow fear to hold me back or any limiting beliefs, because everybody in the industry said, "You're crazy, woman. That will never happen." And here we are today with over 1 million events we've delivered flowers to, and continue to deliver to anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 weddings a week across the United States.
A week.
A week. Mm-hmm.
That's just a mind-boggling number, 2,000 to 4,000 weddings per week across the United States. So this is an incredible evolution. And one of my favorite sayings came from an early paper napkin from Jay Papasan. And he wrote a book with Gary Keller, and following the book, which was The One Thing, he came on the show and he shared that every great yes is defended by 1,000 no's.
Yeah, very similar.
Very similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
But yours has more emotion behind the yes. And I think a lot of people have a hard time figuring out what their hell yes is. So when you go through this, when you're starting, when you're falling in love with flowers and the farms in Ecuador and South America and seeing these beautiful blooms, and then going from that to where you are now, 2,000 to 4,000 weddings per week, and that's just in the United States. Forget about what you're doing globally, but 2,000 to 4,000 weddings in the United States, that's an amazing evolution. What are you saying hell yes to? What is the hell yes? How do you navigate for that?
It's really interesting that you asked that question, because it's not really up to me. And it goes back to the secret of you are as good as the people you surround yourself with. And over the past 5 years, a significant shift in 50 Flowers is we've adopted to EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. Do you know about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And surrounding myself and putting us on a very rigid, these are our rocks. This is, we're not going to chase any squirrels. And for me, the comfort that gives is, number one, there's an audience around me that can listen to all my visionary ideas. And most importantly, there's a parking lot, which is my long-term IDS, that we can park that information, those ideas on, and come back and visit them when we work on our next quarter or our next annual goals. So the safety of having a place to where what we should be chasing versus what we're working on, and protecting those boundaries between those, those two ideas, is part of how I stay on the hell yes.
Hmm. And it's really important to protect what you are dreaming about from what you're doing, right? And what you're doing from what you're dreaming about, because those things can be at conflict with another, especially as it relates to the squirrels, right? Because they can be very distractive. Execution, I say this all the time, strategy without execution is hallucination. It's a dream that just disappears when you wake up in the morning. But it's really important as a team to learn how to execute and stay focused. And you talked about that in in your when we started off as well. So I think that's really interesting. Your story is really interesting. And then going back to this idea of spreading yourself too thin and the folly of the middle, right? We talked about that. But then you said something else also that I think is interesting. You said especially for women. Why do you think that's especially true for women?
In general, women, we have a tendency, and I don't know if it's we or if it's gender or if it's an entrepreneur, but it is, we have a lot to balance. Personally, being, a single mom and having kids, there's a lot of tug of war between your personal and your professional, where, it's understanding that these are my boundaries, these are my work hours. And during this time, I need to be able to focus so that I can put my deposits in work. Then I can be present for you when it's playtime, it's family time, which
So
is,
so being in the middle is tough of that, right? Because you can't be in the middle as a mom, as a parent. I don't think any parent can be in the middle, and be and feel like you're winning at that. And I don't think any leader can feel like they're in the middle of their of leadership, meaning they're not fully being a leader. They're reserving something from that task. So th- that is really significant. So um, you also said as a result, then and I think this really ties to your point about it being, at least in your lens, especially true for women, that saying hell yes is a commitment.
Mhm.
So what does that commitment look like to you?
oh, it's boundaried. It is, a lot of people these days, it's trending to, time block on your schedule and saying, every morning I wake up and I'm going to, I have my 10-10-10 that I do. And then I go work out for an hour and that's my time. Well, doing the same with how are you going to get to your goals? How are you going to get to your rocks? How are you going to get to that very specific, you know, to do that we said this is your goal for the month? It's really making sure that you sharpen your focus and you don't entertain any distractions.
I think that when you're speaking about your routine and you talked about 10-10-10, I know what you're talking about. But for people listening for the first time and they're not familiar with this idea, what is the 10-10?
My 10-10-10 is 10 minutes of journaling gratitude, 10 minutes of meditating, and then it is 10 minutes of stretching.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, and I've heard other versions that include reading,
Mhm,
journaling, and thinking, but meditating also fills out. And this other part of it, and this is a Napoleon Hill idea that you immediately you move your body with it, right? You put your
mhm,
intentions into action. You create physical energy around those
mhm.
intentions that you've just created and cultivated for, in your case, a half an hour. And so, how does that help you sharpen your focus? What do you hold coming out of that?
Well, it's interesting. I've recently, in the past 2 months, switched to, instead of just free journaling, like journal gratitude. And I will say that it has uplifted my mood and it's uplifted just the vibration and the light that I'm sharing on a day-to-day basis. Um, Overall, the days that I skip my routine, which are few in between, because all it takes is one day for me to skip, I just am off kilter and off balance.
Yeah, it's really true. I know that journaling plays a big role in my model every single day, and I can certainly notice when I don't get to it first thing and I get to it later. And
Mhm,
and my general belief is, look, life happens. Life has a way of
mhm.
altering your plans, especially if you dare to speak them out loud. Your plans get altered pretty quickly. And the idea is being flexible enough to get back on it and do it the next moment you possibly can to bring back into alignment what you were doing. The other thing that you talked about was You used to, compromise and do lots of stuff, and you learned that less is more. And I certainly do believe that growth is subtraction and not addition. It's not about what more can you do, it's what can you focus on with a greater level of intent. So as your company's grown from, doing B2B marketing to B2C, you're going direct to consumers, you're going direct to people. How are you doing less? You doing less. And then maybe you.
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at vanta.com.
You could extend that to your team a little bit.
Well, first off, we're not adding any priorities in the middle of a quarter, which is, it sounds so easy, but it's hard. When you have some incredible opportunities pop up or ideas pop up, and it's just saying no. Once again, it's sharpening the boundaries around what our focus is. And me personally, what am I doing? I love to talk about the T, that, our infamous like accounting T. You have your positives and your negatives. And I started this about 2 years ago, and I started to write down what I really enjoy doing. And then on the other side, I put down that was the mundane work that I found so boring, I wanted to shoot my toe. And then I started to hire around it. And
What does that
that
mean?
been a game shifter for me.
So what do you mean by hire around it?
For example, for me, I really love to be out and about and be, in the presence in the public. I'm writing a book. I'm really enjoying writing this book. I am and interviewing for this book. It's just tickled my fancy. And what I don't like doing is actually transcribing everything, putting it on paper, not necessarily on paper, but like organizing it, having all of our digital assets organized. I like having them organized. I just don't like doing that work. And so I've hired somebody who that's what they love to do. And they don't want to be interviewing people. So it's complementary skills so that we can really be happy. And that sounds so corny, but when you enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to be work. It's going to be just you playing.
And what changed for you when you discovered that you could focus on the areas that you really enjoy in your work?
Yeah, the way that I look at it is I gave myself the permission. And I have a feeling a lot of entrepreneurs out there forget. But I gave myself permission to be able to chase joy instead of just check off a box because there's no one else to do it. And that shifted. Just the passion is back in myself, which then the passion is back on the whole team. Because as founders, we forget that when we walk in the room, our energy walks in the room with us. And it's contagious.
I agree. So I think a lot of people, somebody's listening right now and they're saying, well, that's all really great, Liza, but it's great that you've given yourself permission to choose joy, but I don't have somebody who can do X, Y, Z task. So I have to do it. I have to check the box. What would you say to that person?
Say every time that you say, I have to do something, just take a step back and think, that's a limiting belief. And you're staying in a moment that is hindering your growth as a business, as a person. And there's always a way when there's a will.
That's right. If you have desire and willingness, then anything is possible. You used the word limiting belief, and I believe in the power of understanding our limiting beliefs slash decisions, right? Those are decisions. If we perpetuate them, there's choice. So if we're choosing to believe something, we can definitely unchoose to believe those things, but it takes a practice to do that. Is that where your journal and morning intention comes in, that you help to build the muscle to make those choices? Is that how it works for you?
Absolutely. Govind, I love that you said build the muscle because it is a muscle. And our beliefs, you know that saying that your mom used to always tell you, mom or dad, just to be fair, that you are who you believe you are, or you are what you believe you are. So true. It is so true. And, both in business and in life, I have repeatedly, surrounded myself with lesser than that, and the word is poo-pooed on my ideas. From the get-go, as a little girl from Texas that came from two amazing parents, but their own limiting beliefs limited me. And, you know, y you if you can dream it, you can do it. That's what I tell my 2 daughters. If you can dream it, you can do it because you can.
Yeah. Either you think either if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right.
That's right.
So, so I believe fundamentally in focusing on what you want, aligning with where you are, and acting. And in that, sometimes things work out, and sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
We're just in a conversation here, and people might get the sense that you're sunny disposition to along play with the flowers theme a little bit, and your energy is because you've had this meteoric rise, and it's been you've not had challenges along the way. It sounds like it's a bunch of wins. Now you're rolling your eyes and shaking your head
No.
because I know there were probably significant challenges, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about one of those and how your hell yes helped you. Or maybe your failing to bring your hell yes into it got you there, and then rediscovering it got you back out.
Yeah. No, Gavin, coming into this, there are so many different, I just obstacles from the day that I was born. I was born with a foot that was stuck up on my shin, and the doctor said, "Your daughter will never walk." And, out did that. I ran a marathon when I turned 50, to just COVID within itself. I know we all have COVID stories, so I don't wanna bore with that. But also, you know, having I can parallel this to so many obstacles along the way. And, you know, thinking about it, it's it's not been easy. And there have been failures, lots of failures. We started a whole subscription business called Flower Fix. And, during COVID, because events got canceled. And we jumped into it once again, shiny star, and we did it very fast and quick, thinking that, it's people are going to want flowers, and spent a lot of time and resources building up a completely separate website. Come to find out that that business is the pennies business, even more so than what we do. And we didn't have the resources for it. And shutting that business down is part of, the lesson that I learned, because I feel like we fail, but failures are celebrated at 50 Flowers and in my life personally, because you learn by failures, that people come and go in your life, and we're supposed to learn from them. And what we learned through, Flower Fix was, well, that cost a lot of money in a moment that we don't have money, because 50 Flowers is 100% bootstrapped. I have never taken any money to build out this business. And, it's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and I like to say wine because what kept us going.
It's true.
It is the truth. I wish I could say it is now, not as much as it was back in the good old days. But it is. It's, understanding that there is a learning, whether it be someone telling you that your daughter is going to be crippled or, a world pandemic or starting a business that just didn't necessarily flop. We learned quickly it was not what we do best and to stay within our lane.
So how did you learn that quickly? Because a lot of people, I think a lot of COVID stories are either I pivoted, it was great, and I created this new vertical, or I pivoted, it was the freaking black hole and it devastated my life, and I picked up the pieces on the other side. There really is very little in between those two options. I mean, some people just sort of survived because they didn't really pivot. They just stayed what they were doing and held their breath, and great. But people who pivoted either had this great vertical or this resounding disaster. There really isn't a lot in between. And I think it's mostly because people, when they were getting failure signals, they weren't listening to them. And it sounds like you were listening to the failure signals, and maybe it has something to do with this idea that failures are celebrated and not hidden in your organization, in 50 Flowers, and in your life, you said. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did you hear those signals?
Govin, I didn't at first because of the sunk cost fallacy. We had invested so much into Flower Fix. And, one thing about 50 Flowers that, we disrupted the flower industry. And there were many people in this industry that did not, and there was hatred towards us. And yes, I use the hate word because of fear and the fear of change and the fear of we're going to steal all the business, taking the flowers directly from the farm to the consumer. What about all the people in the middle? There are professions, there are family businesses. And what mainly people didn't understand is there is this desire to do your own flowers. And it's really not going to affect your business because they're going to find flowers in a different way. And, leaning in to this concept of let's do subscriptions versus DIY, and being in the middle of COVID, there were a lot of mixed messages coming from all around. It also was my divorce year, which was a rough year.
So there was nothing going on.
No, there was nothing going on. I mean, world pandemic, divorce, trying to figure out the kids' schedule of, who's going to go there. Having to learn to furlough, and not just here, but also in Ecuador. Half of my team is in boots on the ground in Quito, Ecuador. So, and that was a whole different world because it's third world developing and it is very labor friendly. So, and then having farmers who were, we had to farm, they had product. You remember all the toilet paper stories and everything. It was like, we just wanted to get flowers out. And, it was going. Were we making money off of it? Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't like a total failure. It became, of course, all of the investment into Flower Fix was, we never recuperated it, but we were making pennies on the dollar. And, I don't like to fail. It's part of my DNA. I am culture index trailblazer, and I always win. Not as much as a daredevil, but I do win. And the messages were coming. It just was really hard to suck it up. Buttercup is something that I love to say that. Suck it up, Buttercup. We're moving on. It was just really hard to shut it down because I believe in this flower industry and I wanted to help rise above the pennies. How many people do you know, or how many times I've, go in, people say, oh, I ordered flowers and they were so expensive. And when you read my book, The Magic of Flowers, which is coming out in March, the goal is to really explain all that goes behind to get those flowers from a laboratory to your table. And when you understand the magic behind every single bloom and every single flower, price is not going to become a variable for you. And with Flower Fix, that was one of our goals was, and what ultimately why I decided to pull the plug for now. And you notice I put in for now is we really, it's a big curve to teach people the value of flowers. And I was not going to go to my farmers and the operations, the logistics, and ask for them to drive to the bottom to be able to compete.
Mm. So you chose your personal and your business values
Mhm.
as a guide to let go of Flower
Mm.
Fix. I mean, that's totally what the decision was. It wasn't just financial. You may have been able to fix the financial if you drove them to zero, but
Mhm.
you had no desire to do that because of what you believe in. And so I think that's really important.
Mhm.
And when you are making decisions from that place, it's not that the easy decisions become easier because it's a tough choice either way. But once you've made them, you feel good about yourself for having made them. Isn't that right? I mean, you're lighting up a little bit even just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because one thing that is extremely important to me personally, and we carry out with the brand as well, is integrity. If you waver on what you believe in, who are you? And what's the purpose of it all? With 50 Flowers, I wholeheartedly thank every one of our clients who trust us with the most important flower event of their life, their wedding, and understanding all the operations that go behind the delivery of the flowers. Even from when it's too rainy in Ecuador, you can get a virus that outbreaks in your greenhouse and flowers aren't exportable. There are so many variables that go into the process of what we deliver that I never ever would. I think about being a bride myself and receiving flowers every time we ship flowers. And we always have our customer and the experience in wholeheartedly as though it was our own. Because without that integrity, we would not be where we are today.
One of the things that I find amazing about the flower business, and you've spoken about this a lot, is, flowers have a relatively short life,
Mhm.
right? When they're in their beautiful bloom. And, I've done we've done products that we've had to export in vessel ships, loads from the US to Europe and other places. And I'm always amazed at how much work goes into quality control, even in, I've owned bakeries, all of this stuff. And in my mind, I just can't get over how incredibly complex it must be to ship something as fragile as a flower and as expensive as a flower, as valuable as a flower,
Mhm.
successfully. That any of them actually make it is miraculous to me. Like, I just don't it's mind-boggling that it even works. Um, and here you are delivering to 2 to 4,000 weddings per week. Just the amount of quality control and commitment to quality that you have must keep, people, your passionate team must keep them very fired up about their place in the world, what they're doing.
Yes. And I thank you for all of that because it is it's a miracle. when you sit and you think about it, and you get into your daily grind, and I'm sure a brain surgeon is like, oh yeah, I just operated on someone's brain, right? It's like it's not a big deal. But then you sit back and like to hear you repeat and the fragility and
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at vanta.com.
the miracle, it ignites my passion even more.
Well, I remember the first time I ever get flowers to anybody, it was to my mom. I was devastated because I bought these flowers for her on Mother's Day, and Mother's Day's in May, and it's kind of hot. So I bought these flowers at the gas station, of course, because what, I forgot about it. So
Yeah.
as a son, I'm on my way home. It's like, oh crap, I got to get flowers. So I drive by the gas station, pick up flowers, put them in the car. Had another pickup to make, got a little bit slow in the pickup, and the flowers are like wilted by the time I get to my parents' place. And that was like a 10-minute drive, and it was hot. I didn't have, my first car didn't have air conditioning. If the windows weren't down, everything was dying inside, including me. And I had a painting business at the time as well, so it smelled like Varsol. So it was a disaster.
Disaster. Yeah.
But I couldn't even bring them home from the gas station, and you're bringing them here from Ecuador. That's crazy.
Okay, well, wait. Did you cut them and put them in water? Because they should have revived if they were conditioned properly.
Well, no, I threw them out and went back and got some more.
Yeah. It's a science. It really is a science, and it is steps along the way we have learned through the years. And, not even to talk about like the freshness of the flowers, but one thing that adds even more of a layer of complication on for us is there's an expiration date.
Yeah.
Meaning that, you're getting married on Friday, and if those flowers don't get to you by Friday, we're in trouble.
Right. So it's not just the date of the flowers, it's the date of the date. Because no one's pushing their date back.
No.
Right.
And one thing I can tell you is 25 years of delivering flowers, we've seen it all, and we have jumped through, and we have an extremely high customer service reputation. In fact, 7 years in a row, I believe it is, we've gotten Newsweek's Best of Customer Service.
Wow.
And this year we're number 1, outbeating everybody else in floral and gifting.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I mean,
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Little girl from Texas who couldn't walk.
Couldn't walk. There, I love it. I just had it. You just helped me with another little, it is really mind-boggling because, going back to the early days of this business, I sat around these people and these companies and the floral industry, and everyone told me that 50 flowers, I don't know how they're going to do it. That's just so silly. They didn't know I was behind it. And, I'm really glad that did not create a limiting belief for me.
How did you stay resilient? How did you not hear those?
I think if you talk to my parents, they did the mind trick on me that just say you can't do it, and then #never know. I will do it if you tell me I can't do it.
So they just fueled you. They just gave you the energy.
They didn't even give me money to start my.
No, I meant your competitor saying this 50 flowers thing's never going to work. It was like, oh yeah, I'll show you.
I'll show you. Exactly. That's yeah.
I love that.
Well, that, and you got to believe in something. And if you can't believe in your own business idea, find something to believe in.
Liza, this has been a powerful conversation. I really appreciate your perspective.
Thank you. Kevin.
This is a place where we shout out a previous guest. He gave us a great napkin 11 years ago. And that napkin was what you appreciate appreciates. And that really fits with your business very, very well. But what you appreciate appreciates. And when John Rulin gave us that napkin, he was in the middle of building a movement around gratitude, which is obviously something special to you. And he created a company called Giftology. And really, he created a positive ripple around the world. Last year, he suddenly passed away. And since that time, we have been asking every guest to shout out somebody in appreciation. Who would you like to appreciate today?
I'm going to give a special shout out to my sister. We've had our ups and downs in our lives, and she lives around the corner from my house. And she's a brilliant soul who leads life with a very tender heart and is always there. And, as an entrepreneur, it's a very small circle the more successful you become. And just knowing that she's there and we can support each other, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. What's your sister's name?
Her name is Jennifer Roeser.
Right. That's beautiful. Well, to all the Roesers, thank you very much, Liza.
Thank you so much, Govin. This was wonderful.
It was. Well, what a powerful conversation with Liza Roeser. And the wisdom she left us with today is simple and really quietly quite powerful. If it's not a hell yes, then it's an easy no. And as you sit with that idea, you might already notice how it starts to rearrange things. Decisions you've been delaying, commitments that you've been carrying, places where your energy has been saying something long before your words did. Liza reminds us that leadership isn't about saying yes to everything that's possible. It's about choosing what's aligned and having the courage to release what isn't. And here are a few of the key takeaways from today's conversation. Clarity often shows up as a feeling before it becomes a decision. Good opportunities can still pull you away from what matters most. Saying no isn't rejection, it's protection. Energy is a real leadership signal, not something to ignore. And making space is how the right yes finds you. So as you move forward from this episode, you might ask yourself, what in my life or business is asking for an honest answer right now? And what becomes possible when you trust the one you already have? If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Because they may need the permission to choose more clearly right now. And as always, grab a napkin, write down your hell yes or your easy no, and share it with us and share it with everyone using the hashtag #PaperNapkinWisdom. Because sometimes the smallest decision can create the biggest shift. Until next time, keep turning small ideas into big results and make it a great day.